Hi there, I'm Andy and welcome to my channel about crypto. In today's video, I want to talk about one particular feature of Ledger hardware wallet. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Ledger wallets, they're really popular, but not necessarily everyone is familiar with something called the passphrase, which basically allows you to create a whole new set of accounts within the same ledger and then hide those accounts from anyone who may potentially, let's say, steal your seed phrase and access your normal set of accounts. They will be still not able to actually access your hidden passphrase accounts. So let me start from the beginning. I'm sure you're familiar with the seed phrase. It's a set of 24 words which protect your wallet, your Ledger hardware wallet. But if you then want to add this passphrase, what it is essentially an additional 25th word, which can be anything between, I think, 2 and up to 100 characters long. It can use letters and numbers, and it can be as complex as you want it to be, although that's not necessarily always a good advice, but I'll talk about that in a minute. And essentially, by adding this 25th word, you are creating a whole new layer of accounts in your ledger, or you can create a whole new layer of accounts. So you can see it as, it's really nicely explained in one of the Ledger official videos, that your seed phrase is protecting like the ground floor of a house. And then the passphrase is a key to the hidden second floor or first floor, depending where you are in the world and what's the naming, right? But essentially this additional layer of accounts, which are completely hidden and completely separate from the first layer. So even if your normal Ledger accounts are in some way compromised, even if actually someone got your seed phrase, so not only you connected, let's say, to a malicious contract and one of your accounts was hacked, but you actually, for some reason, someone accessed your seed phrase, or I don't know, you were robbed or whatever, and someone could access all of those accounts, they still won't be able to access your passphrase protected accounts. Even though it's only one additional word, that word is enough to completely separate it from those other accounts within the same ledger. So it's a really cool feature because it allows you to have much more security within just the same device, rather than having multiple devices and then backups of those devices. You can just have a one device, but with those multiple layers of security. So how do you exactly set it up, or why you may want to set it up? Well, let's start with the how. So in order to be able to set it up, you need to go to your ledger, either Nano X or Nano S, and you go to the control center first. So you do it by pressing both buttons simultaneously, and you need to hold them for a little bit. Once you access control center, you then go to settings, then security, and then within security, you will find passphrase. It's, I believe, the second option from the top. Basically, you just need to start scrolling down until you find it. And once you select it, you can then choose that passphrase, or well, you can create a passphrase. Unlike the seed phrase, which consists of words which come from a certain pool of words, and this pool of words is fixed, your passphrase can be absolutely anything. So you can make up a word, you can use a word that only makes sense to you, or it can be a combination of letters and numbers, it can be absolutely anything. Of course, it has to be something you can actually remember, because, well, if you lose your passphrase, it's a bit like losing your seed phrase. You lose access to those accounts you create with the passphrase. But it can be something that's really meaningful to you, but at the same time really difficult to guess by anyone else. So you have a lot of flexibility there. And of course, you need to create a PIN to protect those passphrase accounts. Because that's one really important thing. Once you create a passphrase, you will still only be able to see your regular accounts in the Ledger app. And only once you log out and log back into your Ledger using the second PIN, the PIN you created for the passphrase, then you will see this new set of accounts, or you'll be able to create new set of accounts, and then you'll be able to access them this way. So essentially you have two different PINs for the same device, and each PIN will allow you to access to a different set of accounts. And you could see it also as having almost like two separate seed phrases, right? One is the set of 24 words, which protects the normal set of accounts, and the other one is that extra 25th word, which protects the hidden passphrase accounts. So just to recap the video, and also just a few things to remember, is that, well, first of all, you need to use a easy to remember but difficult to guess word. Second thing, and that's very important, don't store it together with your seed phrase, because one of the main benefits of having that passphrase is that it's separated from your seed phrase, and your seed phrase will not allow anyone to access your passphrase accounts. So of course, if you store your seed phrase and passphrase together, well, if someone can access one of them, they can most likely access both, right? So that sort of defies the purpose of this whole exercise. So the idea is that you don't write your passphrase on the same piece of paper where you have all your 24 seed phrase words, but you have it in a completely separate location. Ideally, it should be something you can just remember, but there is always a risk that for whatever reason, you may then lose memory of that word. Let's say that, God forbid, you have some sort of accident or something like that, and you just have some sort of amnesia, or essentially, well, it's an extremely unlikely scenario, but it is possible. And especially if you start accumulating more and more digital assets, it could potentially be a big problem if you forget this word. So it should be still stored somewhere, but separately from the seed phrase. Then you need to set up a PIN, which of course you use the same rules as when setting up your regular PIN, right? So it should be 8-digit one, so as long as possible and as difficult as possible to guess, but again, easy for you to remember. And you should also store that separately from your regular PIN. However, the PIN is not as important as the passphrase, because you can reset your PIN, the second PIN. Well, you can reset both PINs, right? But it's a bit like passphrase works like seed phrase. That's the bit that allows you to reset everything, right? So the PIN is not quite as important, but of course you still need to keep it secure and separate from your normal PIN. And then once you do all of that, when you go to the Ledger app, you need to create a whole new set of accounts and make sure that you label them as passphrase accounts, because otherwise it will start getting really confusing. If you have 2 Bitcoin accounts, and it can get quite messy which one is where, and then you need to enter one PIN, then you need to enter another PIN to move funds around. So yeah, make sure that they have sensible names so you can easily tell the difference between your normal accounts and passphrase accounts. And finally, you can then hide those accounts in the Ledger app. So, well, you don't actually hide them, you need to remove them from the app. But of course, this doesn't mean that the account will cease to exist. It's still there on the blockchain. You just remove them from the app, you remove them from your portfolio, so they're not visible. So again, if someone can access for some reason your seed phrase or your ledger, or I don't know, someone steals your ledger from you and tells you to give them the PIN or give them the seed phrase, oh, that's fine. You just give them the details of your normal accounts, and then they can access them and they can drain them, whatever. I mean, it's not great, but the important thing is that if they don't know that passphrase accounts exist, and if you remove them from the Ledger app, there's essentially no way of them knowing that those accounts are there. It's not obvious in any way. They are not shown on any list or anything like that. So it's a really good way to protect your main funds, essentially, right? So you can have a little bit of crypto in your normal Ledger accounts, but then your vault could be protected by the passphrase. Is just yet another layer of security. And then you can remove those accounts from the portfolio so they're invisible, so no one can access them even if they actually steal your ledger. So it's, I think, a really cool feature. Not necessarily everyone knows about it. So if you didn't know, I hope you found this helpful. And yeah, it's just a great way of adding another layer of security, creating completely separate set of accounts. Again, it can make your life easier if you're just using single MetaMask and single ledger. Basically, that's all you need to create multiple layers of security, right? So you can have your burner wallet, which is just a normal account within MetaMask. Then you can have your ledger protected wallet, which is like a trading account. And then you can have your passphrase account, which is yet another layer of security protected by the same ledger. So you don't necessarily need multiple devices and multiple wallets, etc. And you can have quite a few layers of security. So yeah, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you would like to learn more about crypto and Web3, please check out my course, Crypto Like a Pro. And I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.